Thank you. My name is Perry Samson. I'm a professor at atmospheric, oceanic, and space sciences. And normally I'd be standing here talking about our exploration of weather data. My area of interest is, for example, how when we use the millennium of weather data and look at pattern recognition, are there storm tracks that have been recurring, and are those storm tracks going to be changing over time due to climate change? That would be my normal area of conversation. But today I've got something to talk about that's because my chairman came to me and said, look, Perry, you're going to teach the intro course in our department. And as the faculty in the audience know, that's always welcome news. That you, and on top of that, he said, look, also I'd like you to make it so that so that you raise the number of students in this course, because right now it has about 40 in it. It's called Weather and Climate. So I changed the curriculum some and renamed the course to be Extreme Weather. Now I have 250 students in it. And I'm facing that many students in a large lecture hall. I have no idea whether they understand a word I'm saying. And so I started coding some new tools which would allow me to ask them questions during class. Kind of like you're probably familiar with clickers. I was interested in making a clicker system which was all web-based, so that I could ask more kinds of questions, not only multiple choice, but I could ask free response questions. I could ask questions about images. Where on this map would you expect the wind speeds to be highest? And I made this just to be able to interact with my students and ask questions. And everything that I'm going to show you now that happened because students came to me during or after class, and other instructors came to me and said, boy, this is interesting. What if we added this to it? So it's sort of an organic process we've gone through to create tools which we could use particularly in the larger classrooms. Now, I hate to do this, but you can always look at the person's screen next to you. And it's not uncommon in a large lecture hall that it's not focused on class. And this is our biggest fear as faculty. So my research has been about what happens in the day, which is probably already here, when everybody brings technology to class. When the technology, you have your laptop, you have your iPad, you have whatever, it's going to be on your glasses for all I know in 5 years. What happens when you have that technology? Really, we ban it? Or really, we ignore it? That would be stupid. We're thinking about what do we do with that technology. And then, once you have that technology in a classroom, now you have the most interesting data set. And this talk is going to be disruptive. It's going to be uncomfortable for some of you, because you're going to learn what I know about you. I know a lot about you, and some of it is good. Some of it is good. So for example, I'm going to show you what I'm doing. This is just an experiment right now where I have this class. I know what they're typing in real time. I know everything, what their questions are asking. I know when they're confused in this text. Let me just show you it. As the instructor, I upload my PowerPoint into this. It's called Lecture Tools. I upload my PowerPoint into it, which creates the slides. And I'm presenting to you right now in Lecture Tools, not PowerPoint. On top of that, inside the slides, I can create what I call interactives. These are going to be the questions I'm going to pose to you. So during the course of the lecture, I want to find out what you understand. Pose the question to you, get a response back to you so we can have a further conversation during class. I can embed videos in the lecture. Now, when you leave class, you will have the whole slide deck. You're going to have the questions I asked. You're going to have the videos I showed, everything, so you can study all that stuff on your own outside of class. On top of that, just to think the wild thoughts here, I also broadcast my classes live on the internet. So, and I give my students extra credit for not coming to class. They just love me. You can sit at home, and now you can watch the lecture going on in the classroom, but you can still use this tool to answer my questions and ask questions from wherever you are. So instead of a class of 250, what if we had 25 classes of 10 scattered around campus? Would that be bad? These are the kinds of questions I'm interested in. What makes this large class environment better? So I've created my slide deck here. I've got this slide. And the other nice thing now is I can walk to any computer in the world, as I just have here, and teach class. And I can teach class from wherever I am. I taught class live from Tasmania last week, back here in Michigan, and we still had an interactive session. It can do this, it just changes the whole dynamic of class. And on top of that, it's collecting gobs of data about what's going on in the classroom. Now, you as students would see the slides that I'm presenting, and you're going to be able to take notes that are synchronized with the slides. You're going to be able to draw on the slides as if you wanted to annotate. You can draw on the slides, as I will try to do here right now. Click on the pen button, pick a color, and go draw on the slide. You can draw, and it's saved in your own notes. I know every drawing you make. I know when you draw up here. Here's a button here. If you can basically bookmark the slides. I know what slides you bookmarked as important. Those are the slides you're going to go back and study in particular later after class, and you filter through. The little button up here in the upper left-hand corner is I'm confused. You can tell me when you're confused. You click. We call it the WTF button. Yeah. I don't. Bam. You hit that button, it tells you what slides you were confused on, and at the same time, it sends a signal to my screen up here, the instructor slide. I know how many of you are confused at any moment. I might still ignore that, but at least I know. And after class, I can go back and say, where were they confused? Maybe I used that to start the next lecture. But we're communicating more. This is a far better model, I think, for large classrooms. The opportunity for us to have a more interactive conversation during lecture. You can play along right now. Just to demonstrate this, I've set this up. You can go to this website on top. I see many of you have laptops and such. By the way, if you have an iPad, go down here and go find the Lecture Tools. Oops. Find the Lecture Tools iPad app, and you can download it for free. And then you can play along at home. For example, here is the iPad app, and you can move through the slides I'm presenting in your app. You can draw on the slide with your finger. You can take notes. You can indicate when you're confused. All those things on the iPad app if you choose. I'll give those who want to a moment to do this and log in here. You do not. Just simply go to that. Type in, instead of email, use demo1712 without any password. And any faculty who want to learn about how to use this, I'll be happy to show you outside. Once you get to the next screen for the laptop users, just click that button, and it should drop you into this particular conversation. All right. Now, typically in class, I show these slides to the students, and it takes 5 minutes the first lecture, and I say the best resource is sitting next to you. The students have absolutely no trouble with this. They figure this out and work on it all semester. I also tell them it's voluntary. If you don't want to bring your laptop to class, you can answer actually with your cell phone. If you don't want to bring either of them, you just hand me a piece of paper at the end of class. That's fine. 92% of students will then show up with a laptop next time. Make sure your room is ready. And it's just a wholly different environment than you ever taught before. Whoops. So you can pose questions. And this is from a political science course about sovereign states. You can pose questions to the students. When you pose the question to the students, you can also ask them, you can also click a button and force them to ask, why did you choose what you did? Which is, I'm going to argue, at least as interesting as the answer itself. So here, there's a bimodal distribution. You can click on the letter B. It'll show you the justifications for those who chose B. As an instructor, this is great because if I choose my questions right, I can make an environment where I'm going to be able to uncover misconceptions. So it gives me more tools. I'm building sort of a cookbook here, a kitchen, if you will, of utensils. You're still the chef as the instructor. And just to illustrate this, here's a question for you. You can answer now for me here live. If you were a student, what data from class would you prefer your instructor not see? Click all that apply. And here are your notes, your questions, answers, and interactions with other students about the class, pages. You know, what would you be worried about me knowing? Because I'm about to scare the heck out of you. And you can go vote here if you can't want to right now. And you can see the votes coming in already. Looks like interactions with other students is what the biggest concern at the moment. And this will change as more people vote. But again, you don't need to be in the classroom to participate. If you could see this conversation outside here, you could vote from wherever you are. I didn't mention this, and I should have. On your screen, as a button at the top, it's called Questions. You can punch that any time and pose a question to me. Is that intelligent or what? You can ask me a question during class, and I may be able to answer them during class if I were good. But thank God they give me a teaching assistant, and he or she sits down there and answers the questions in real time, does spin control on what Perry's saying. And everybody in class can see the questions, the answers, but you don't see who asked the question. So in the 33 years, 7 months, and 16 days I've been teaching here at the University of Michigan, it has been, usually I would ask at the end of class any questions, and no one ever says, no one ever raises their hand, right? So I throw the chalk down, do a little victory dance in the front of the room thinking I just nailed that lecture. With this technology, when you can ask the question without being pointed out and get a response, 66% of my students are now asking questions. This is great. I'm getting them to ask. These are students who are not comfortable with science, asking science questions, and they can do that. These are international students who are not comfortable with English so much as to raise their hand, are asking questions now. So we're having a much greater, richer conversation than I've ever had before in class. You can ask free response questions. And again, you're the expert in the front of the room. Here are the responses. This is for a class in kinesiology here. I have no idea what the right answer is, but the instructor could stand here and say, well, I like this one, it's incomplete, it needs this. Don't like this one because it's wrong. You can go down the list here. You're basically giving them the feedback they're going to need to do well in the class. How would you grade this thing? So you're giving them the opportunity to participate. The big thing about these large classrooms is we rarely give students the opportunity to participate. With this kind of tool, we can. And on top of that, we collect data. This is just an example, by the way, of weather data. So here's an image-based question. Where on this map would you expect the storm surge to be greatest? This is one of those sobering moments after 3 days of lecturing about the physics of hurricanes. This is a Hurricane Katrina, in fact, and Hurricane Katrina was moving straight north this way. So, with the winds blowing in a counterclockwise way, you'd kind of expect the biggest storm surge to be over here somewhere. Obviously, there are some people confused. That's fine, and then it shows on the screen, and you see that, okay, oh boy, we all laugh. And those who got it wrong understand that at least they're not alone. It's not just me. Others are confused. And it's an opportunity, a teachable moment. We can have a conversation. So again, more communication happens in class through the tools like this. And at the same time, everything you're doing is being collected. Every stroke you take, every word you type is being collected. Oh, here's a question for you. Hey, let's just see your knowledge of weather. Where on this map would you expect the greatest temperature rise due to increasing greenhouse gases? Put a dot on the map. You can't do that with a clicker. Dots are coming in. You can see some people think it looks like Egypt and the Gobi Desert and Antarctica. But you see, you can imagine images in your own field. You can start challenging your students with graphs and such that you can start challenging your students with. And this is just another tool for you. By the way, the answer is the Arctic. Students can ask questions. It just shows the students' questions. It shows the student's response. You don't see who's asked the question here. All these data are also being collected, and I'm mining them. Yes, there's an iPad app. You've seen that. Oh, by the way, it also comes in such that this whole thing that I'm doing here can be put onto your iPad. I have this little strappy thing. Now I can conduct class as I walk around the room. I can change slides. I can draw on the slides. It's still going to be changing slides and drawing up there. It's far harder for you to go off task if I'm standing behind you. And everything we do is being recorded. So now what do I do? If you knew everything, I'll speak to the instructors for a moment. If you knew everything your students were doing relevant to your class, what would you do with it? Johnny comes up to you and says, Perry, I'm trying so hard in your class. And pull up my little data sheet and hear, well, actually, no. You know, you just love the look on their face. But now let's talk about that. So outside of class, I have this analytic system that shows me who came to class, how many answered questions, how many got the questions right, did they ask questions, how many slides.
Testing.
And let me go to, I don't care. Lightning.
Can you swap mics really quick?
I wore one out. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That one's text, so we can collect that.
Yeah, doing the voice recognition. Yeah, that's the next thing. Oh, and by the way, also we lecture capture. In lecture capture, we're doing word transcription in lecture capture, so that the whole lecture also becomes part of the database in this system. So here we can see that in a particular now slide by slide, you know how many students took notes, how many words were typed per slide, and you know here's this 360 slide. What words were typed on a particular slide. And each of the words now automatically, as the students are typing the notes, they're automatically able to take the words they're typing and link them either to their textbook, like with Hailstone. So if you type one of the words that's in my list of keywords, it now brings up questions. Do you understand this concept? I don't have to tell you what pages to read anymore. I just simply lecture, you take notes, and based on the notes, it starts connecting you to either your e-textbook or Wikipedia or YouTube or a variety of other sources. And if it's to the textbook, it starts challenging you with questions to see whether you understand that concept or not. So it sort of becomes a way, and now you can go try to answer the question here. And let's try to, I'm just going to click a button here without even reading the question. Oh, I got it wrong. But it says it's discussed on this page of your textbook. I click on that, it opens up your textbook to that page where that word is connected. So what you're doing here is taking and mining the words that are being typed in class in real time and then exposing the students to the resources which might help them learn about that concept. Some 90% of students at the University of Michigan felt last semester they would have gotten the same grade in their course if they'd never opened the textbook, which tells me that a large portion of students never open their textbook. Well, this at least exposes you to the fact that if you don't understand it, you get some challenging questions. If you don't understand that concept, here's where it's in your textbook. And for e-textbooks, we can connect you. And if you don't have an e-textbook for this word, you can upload a PDF as an instructor. You can connect to that. If you don't have those, it'll connect you to Wikipedia or a variety of other sources. Let me just go back here, if I can, to our earlier conversation. Where did that guy go? Here we are. This is interesting in terms of, because I know even what pages of the book you've looked at. This is not, are you nervous yet? I know the notes you're writing. I know when you open the textbook up. I know if you listen to the podcast, when you listen to it. I know when you do your homework. I know all these data. What should I do with that? I don't know yet. But, you know, at least at a minimum, I'm going to watch for students who just aren't participating. So I can call them out. So what's going on? Are you ill or something going on? At least weeks before the first exam, I'm going to know which students are in trouble. Here, for example, this is interesting. When do students actually look at the textbook? Here's new data. Well, I expected not the weekends, but what this Monday thing is. And Thursday, you know, I guess before the bars open, every week by week, Thursday is the day students study their textbook. I didn't know that. What's going on, kids?
Do you have a due date Thursday?
I do not. Except this was the exam was here, right there. That I expected. Anyway, there's always surprises in these data once you start looking at them. And imagine now that you're going to have access to those data from your students. What are the students comfortable telling you about themselves? Should they be allowed to opt out? Should you have access to these data? Should I know when you're reading the textbook? How do I use those data to help you as a student? Those are the questions that are the hard questions now, but these data are coming, and now is the time for us to figure out how to best use them. Thank you very much.